Hello soulmates, it is an absolute pleasure to have you once again on my channel. If this is your first time checking out my channel, please consider subscribing, because on this channel I teach you how to do simple DIY fashion right there at your home. To all those who have already subscribed to this channel, thank you very much, and to those who will subscribe, thank you also. Today I'll be showing you how to make a asymmetrical dress. This is just going to be a simple dress with a waist dart, and it's going to cut from about 3 inches below one of your hip to the hem of the dress. So today this is what I want to show you how to do. So here I have my pattern paper. This is the fabric that I'm planning on using for this dress, but I've opted to work on my pattern paper because you will not be able to see the chalk very well on that fabric. So let's get started. So here I have some lines drawn. So here I have my shoulder line, and from my shoulder to my chest line, then my bust point line, my waist, my hip, and the length of where I want this dress to stop. So because this dress I wanted to have a hem, a gathered hem, moving from one side to the other, it's important that you determine how tall you want the main part of that dress to be. And I've made mine about 43 inches, because even though it's a asymmetrical, you can make any length you want. I made mine 39, the main part, with seam allowance. You can make it any length you want. It's up to you. So now to get started, you're going to start with your 3 inches, 8 inches standard. And I must tell you that I'm drafting my back and my front. I pinned the front onto the back, and I went in at the back 1 inch for my zipper allowance. So I'm doing both of them together. So the first thing you'll have to do is to do your 3 inches, 8 inches standard. You should get used to this because I've done this almost in every video. So 3 inches here and 8 inches here. And I'm gonna come down 1 inch, and I'm going to make my shoulder slope. Like this. So I want my shoulder measurement is about 16 inches, but I'm going to put 8¼ inches. So I'm gonna do 8¼ also at the chest line. And I'm gonna make a straight line connecting that. Okay, so now I'm going to find the midpoint of this for my armhole, and I'm drafting the back and the front together. So my armhole is 7½ from that point, 1 inch point. So I'm going to find the midpoint, and for the front I'm going to go in 3/4 inch, and then I'm going to connect this point to this point. Like this, and then I'm just going to connect that point to the chest line like this. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm just also going to do the back armhole. Since we're drafting, all you have to do from the midpoint that you've drawn, just go ahead and connect that point to the chest line. If you haven't seen my video on how to make a basic bodice pattern, you can go ahead and check it out. So what I'm going to do now, at the waist, I'm going to insert my darts. So I'm going to take my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches, and I'm going to add that also to the chest line, since I'm doing it for the back and the front, and ensure it passes through the bust point also. You're going to need it. At the hip, I'm going to insert that 4 inches also, and I'm going to make a straight line. Okay, so at my waist I'm gonna just take 1 inch, half an inch on both sides. Then for the front dart, you go from the bust point, not the chest line. So for the, I'm gonna go down about 1 inch because I don't want it, the dart to be on my nipple point. And then I'm going to go up 2 inches from my hip, and I'm going to make my dart. So here I have my dart created. So for the back measurement, the back dart, just go down from your chest line 1 inch, and then at the hip you're gonna go up just 1 inch. And I'm gonna see if I could use a different color to show you the difference between the back and the front dart. So here I have my another color, so I'm gonna connect this with the purple. There you go. And then here. So this is the back. The purple is for the back. So do not make that mistake when you are transferring the darts to the fabric. Okay, so the back, that is for the back. So now I'm going to take the measurements across my body. So at my chest line here, I'm going to put my bust measurement. My bust is 42, that's 10.5 inches when I divide by 4. Plus I'm gonna add half an inch for ease. So I'm gonna make it 11 inches. If you're using a fabric that's stretched, you could just go ahead and use their actual measurement. And then I'm gonna take 1 inch for my seam allowance. Now at my waist is 30, I'm gonna make it 35 inches. Quarter of 35 is 8.75. So I'm going to put that there, plus this 1 inch seam allowance. So that would be 9.75, which is here, plus 1 inch to sew this together. At my hip is 43 inches. That is 10.75, and I'm going to leave my hip as it is. So I'm gonna put 10.75 at my hip plus 1 inch to sew it together. Okay, so now I'm going to connect these points together. Okay, remember I told you need to go down from your hip about 1 to 1.5 inches before you start curving, okay? It makes it sit much better around the hip. Makes the dress or the skirt fit way better around the hip. And then what you're going to do, you're going to take 1 inch, because I want this to be tapered. You're going to go to the hem and you're going to measure what you have here. Here I have 10.75. I'm going to put 9.75 here. And then I'm gonna add 1 inch for seam allowance, and I'm gonna connect that point here. There you have it. So I already included my seam allowance at the bottom, so I'm not going to put any seam allowance there. Now let's talk about the neckline. So for the neckline, I want a neck width of about, this is 3 inches, about 3.5 inches, which is here. And for the back, I'm going to go down 1 inch. You could go down deeper if you want, but I don't. So I'm gonna go down 1 inch, and I'm gonna connect that point all the way to the seam allowance over here. So this is the zipper. Let me write that so that you don't get confused. Zipper allowance. Okay, so for the front, I'm going to make maybe a sweetheart neckline. So I'm gonna go down about maybe 7 inches. Don't want it too low, so I'll go down about 6 inches, and I'm gonna connect a straight line or a perfect curve for about 3.5 inches, and I'm going to, that's fine, right? And then I'm going to connect this point to that point there, like this. I'm gonna go up about 3 inches or 2.5 inches, maybe there. And I'm going to use my French curve and make a curve to this point, like this, for the sweetheart neckline. Okay? Okay? So that's it. Okay, you can make whatever neckline you want, it's up to you. So remember to add your seam allowance here, 1/2 inch there, 1/2 inch there, to join the panels together. So don't forget that. Do not forget that seam allowance. Okay, and then you are going to connect it there. Okay, that's your joining seam allowance. So what you're going to do is that this is the basically what we are going to cut out. But in order to get the side, let me cut out the back first. So I'm gonna cut out this pattern. Cut out the back first, remember. So I'm gonna cut this pattern out. If you notice, the pattern made some indentation at the back, so I could clearly see the dart. So I can go ahead and transfer my dart to the back pattern. So that's what I'm gonna do now. So if you notice, it stops right here, right there at that point. Then here, here, and also the back one is the purple one here, so I'm gonna make that point there. When I turn it around, see, it made some indentation, so I can clearly see. I'm gonna transfer this dart there, so that when I'm cutting, I know what to cut. Okay, so that's my dart. All right, so what you're going to do is that you're going to mark these lines. The hip, you're gonna mark it on your back measure piece. Your waist, your chest line, okay? And you're gonna make some snips so that you know where they are, right? Because you're gonna redraw those lines because you need them as a guide. Okay, and what you're going to do is that you're going to pin this, the pin the seam allowance. That's the zipper seam allowance. Pin it down so that it doesn't shift. Pin it down. Because what you're going to do, you're going to open up this pattern. So pin those down. Because you're going to open up this pattern. Okay? So we know that this would be the back. So we'll mark it. So this is the wrong side, the back. All right, wrong. The wrong side of the, so to speak, the wrong side of the dress. So this is the part that would be on your skin. And this is the part that would be on your body. The clear side, the clear that doesn't have the markings. That is very important because we're now going to have to put right sides facing each other, and since we're using a pattern, it's kind of, you have to know how to do it. So you're going to fold this in. You could use tape to do this also. Maybe I'll just put a small tape there so that it doesn't move. You're going to fold in your seam allowance here at the back, your zipper. It's important that you do that. Fold it in like this. And then, since this is the wrong side and this is the right side, we're going to put wrong side to wrong side, so the right side is facing up. So what you're going to do now is that you're going to cut out your neckline. At the front. Right? And you're gonna cut out the armhole area. Okay. And since this is the wrong side, this is the wrong side of the pattern, right? So remember, this is the wrong side of the pattern. This is where the darts I would take in. This would be the right side. So this is the wrong side. Let me write that. This is the right side. This part that I folded is the wrong side of the pattern. You have to get them right, or else you're gonna run yourself in some trouble. So I'm gonna turn. This is the wrong side facing wrong side, like this. Right? Wrong side facing wrong side. So this will be the right side of my pattern, the side that will show. And you're going to just pin it down. Pin it down. Pin it down. So it doesn't move, okay? Please, if you notice, my hip line is at the right place. So, see, like this. Okay. Right. So now what you're going to do is that you're going to, at this point, so this is how my dress would look on me when I'm done. This is how it will look. But I want my cut to go from the right to the left. So the right side would be this side. So I want my cut to go like this all the way down, right? All right, so now you have to determine how much you want your cut, where you want your cut to start from. So in my case, I don't want it to be too revealing on my hip, even though I'm going to put a gathered peplum on the bottom, but I still don't want it to be too high on my hip. So from my hip, I'm going to go down about maybe 4 inches or 3 inches, 3.5 inches. I don't want it to be too revealing. and I'm going to make a curve. So this would be a seam allowance where you stop. So I will make a curve from here, and I will stop somewhere here. I will just try to make a, you could make a straight line, but I want a curve, okay? So I'm gonna use my free hand first to make that curve. So don't want it to, I'm gonna refine it, so don't worry. But ensure that you cut out your seam allowance, okay? Okay, something like this I need. So, but I'm gonna refine it to make it look really nice. So I'm gonna ensure that my curve is nice. Okay. Don't mind the curve, you'll refine it. Don't mind my drawing. You can refine it whatever you want. Okay. Sure that this is a bit, since you're taking in the seam allowance, ensure that that's a bit straight. Okay. To here, this point right there where the seam allowance is. Okay. And then you're going to cut this off. Okay, I'm gonna cut this off. So this is what you're going to have. So now what you're going to do is that you're going to put this on your fabric and cut it out. And then after you cut it out, you're going to make your ruffles for the end of your skirt. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm going to put this on my fabric and cut it out. Okay, so mates, so I'm so sorry that I did not show you how I went about cutting out putting the pattern on the fabric and cutting it out, because I have such small space and I could not do it on this table, so I did it on the floor. So what I did was that I just opened the fabric out like this, and I placed it on I opened the pattern paper and I placed it on my fabric, and I just cut it all around. But ensure that you cut it on the right side, or else you're going to run yourself in some problems. And I also, because my darts were showing, I also went ahead and I marked my darts so that when I'm sewing I know where they are. It is the same thing for the back. I went ahead and I cut out the back just the same, and I also made the darts. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put away these patterns. I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to trace out the neckline. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trace out the neckline so that I could finish the neckline of this dress. So I'm going to take these off. So I'm gonna take these off. So this is a part of the back. I just slit it open, and I slid it open and I did them separate. So this is a part of it, and this is the other part. Because remember, there's a zipper going into this dress. So this is what you're going to have. You see? It's gonna look funny, but that's how it's gonna be, okay? Alright, to make the neckline, what you're going to do is that you're gonna take your fabric for your lining and you're gonna fold it. This is the front now. You don't have to fold it for the back. And you're going to put your pattern piece like this. Right, folded edge, and you're going to pin it down. I'm just going to use my wonder clip to hold it here, sure that it's in line. Okay, you could use your pin, that's fine. And then you're going to trace out this neckline, and you're going to trace it out up to about 3 inches. Okay, about there, this point. Okay, and then I'm going to show you what to do. So I'm going to cut this out. Stop there. I'm going to take this off. And I'm going to pin this down so it doesn't move. Okay. And I'm going to measure my 3 inches. Okay. All the way around. 3 inches. All the way around. There's no standard to this one. You could just do whatever. Just connect all those 3-inch points. Right? So it's flat. And then you're gonna cut it out, okay? So what you're gonna do, you're gonna fuse this with interfacing so that it gives it some stability before you turn your lining. And you're gonna do the same thing for the back. Okay? Because the back is symmetrical, you could use any of them. Just ensure that right sides are facing or wrong sides are facing each other. Right? You're gonna do the same thing. Pin it down. Even the sewing allowance, the zipper allowance. And you're going to measure up to this point, 3 inches. Okay. And you're going to cut this off. So now what I want you to do is take your front pattern. This is the hem of the front pattern, and I want you to measure how much. So I'm gonna close it up first, or let me just measure how much is the length of the hem. Here I have 26 inches. So what you're going to do is that you're going to decide how full you want the ruffles to be. It depends on how much fabric you have. So what you can do, you can multiply 26 by 2 or 2.5 or 3. It depends on the fabric that you need, and you need to take in consideration the length of the dress and how much the ruffles are gonna be, how long you want the dress to be. So this is the fabric that I have left over. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to multiply, because I need the back and the front. So I'm gonna make it by 2 or 2.5. Let's see. And I'm going to cut out my ruffles, the back and the front also. I'll do that and then I'll show you what it looks like. So guys, the amount of fabric that I have here, so this is the length that I want. You could do any length you want. I really don't like my dresses to be very short, so don't mind me, but you can do whatever length you want. But this is the end of the dress that it's gonna have, and the length of this fabric is 26 times 2 with just a little piece. So it's just what is left of the fabric that I'm going to use to finish this dress. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to assemble this dress together.